Good morning. Welcome to Entrepreneurial Live Interviews with Connie Fuksa. So a couple times a week, I introduce you to people that I've met through experiences that I've had that are just doing things that you want to do, but you might be afraid to do, or having struggles that you've experienced and they've figured out how to get through them because they've had these struggles too, right? So, executing a business, seeing an opportunity, taking advantage of opportunities that are in front of you, reaching out to other people for help. There's lots of common themes in this, but all of these stories are very unique and very different based on the different person that I'm talking to. And I'm loving sharing with you guys all of these amazing people that are just like you and I that have figured out through some certain processes how to get past some of these struggles and how to excel in what they absolutely love. So this morning I'm sharing with you a lady that I've known on and off for several years, but I've really got to know a little bit better. And I can't wait to share her story and for me to learn a whole lot more about her today as well. So this morning I have the distinct pleasure of introducing you to Faith Burns. Good morning, Faith.
Hi, Connie.
Thank you so much for being with us today. I truly appreciate your time. I know how important and valuable it is.
Thanks, Connie. I really appreciate this too. It's great.
Absolutely. So Faith, let's start off by you tell us a little bit about you because I want to share you with everybody out there. So tell us who you are, like where you came from, what you've done, and where you are now, and what you're doing now, and how you got to where you are.
Okay, well, I have really been in the title business since I was a baby child. At 19, I went to work for an oil and gas company and started doing real estate searching in the land records in 23 counties in West Virginia so that they could then get in touch with these folks to try to drill for oil and gas.
Ah, interesting.
Yeah. Then I moved back to Maryland in 1986 and decided to open my own title abstracting firm, Harder Abstracting Company. And I had that for many, many years, employed 13 people at its peak, and had some great times with that. Once everything went online, as far as researching goes, I really missed the interaction with people. I mean, I was just behind a computer instead of in a courthouse amongst all my peeps. So I decided to go ahead and get into real estate settlements. And that way I'm out networking all the time. I'm sitting at the closing table with folks and interacting again. That's just my jam. So that's where I am at this point, and I really love it. And it's been about 35 years.
Wow. So much good information there. So first of all, tell everybody, because I come from that background, so I understand that people don't understand what some of these things are. But first tell us what does an abstractor do when you did that for a long time? So people understand, some of the kind of things you've done. You ran a business, and that's for particular type of business. A lot of people wouldn't understand what that is. So tell us a little bit about that so they can understand, maybe some things that you went through as far as owning that business as well.
Right. Okay. Well, what this means is you have to be vetted in order to borrow money. Mm-hmm. The property has to be clear. That means that if there are any liens against it, like federal tax liens, any kind of title issue, we would find that amongst the land records in whatever county that was. It's a complicated thing that many people take for granted. And it has to be done in order for it to be insured, and in order for you to get the loan to buy the property or borrow against it.
Wow, very good, very good. So you decided to do that for obviously quite some time, doing the abstract, and then you transitioned because of the way the business took a different turn. But tell us a little bit about your experience there, because obviously being a business owner, you learned a lot about how to execute a lot of different things, how to deal with working with people, bringing on employees. And then it would probably made you a better self-starter at this point, transitioning into a new position. So tell us a little bit about maybe some of the things that you had to go through as you decided to be a business owner, and some of the things you had to deal with that maybe people could understand a little bit better about that business ownership side.
I'll tell you what, probably the hardest thing for me was I was close friends with everybody that worked for me. It's hard for me not to be that way. And so it was difficult when somebody didn't work out and I had to fire them. I hated it. I cried every time.
Right. I can understand.
But yeah, I mean, I became friends with all these folks. When you spend time in close quarters in a record room in the courthouse, you become very close friends with people. And I was fortunate to have some really excellent employees along the way that are still my friends to this day. Some of them are still in the same business, but money kind of came out of it a little bit when it all went online. We weren't as important as people thought we were. But one of my closest friends is still in the business. She still owns an abstracting company, and God bless her. I get to share an office with her every day. But it made sense for me to then move into a social position where I can go out and network and bring in new business and sit at a closing table with people. It made sense for me personally and socially.
Well, the thing that I like about this conversation right here is clearly, one of the questions I ask is like, what is your specialty? What makes you happy? What lights you up? What gets you going? And clearly it is the interaction with the people is what I'm hearing you say. So talk about networking and how that fits into your business a little bit, because I think one of the things that I think is really important to identify in this conversation that we're having is that not everybody's good at networking. Not everybody likes that, but finding what that specialty, what you're super good at, what lights you up, not even just what you're good at, because just because you're good at something doesn't mean that what lights you up. But, for you, clearly, it seems like the networking and the people interaction is clearly a great spot. So tell us a little bit about that and how that works for your business, because networking obviously is huge for you. What would you give, tell us about how that works for you. And then also some advice to somebody who knows they need to network for their business, but it's not their thing.
Yeah, I'll tell you, I mean, it's not easy and it's not for everybody because going out to events by yourself, walking in by yourself is not the greatest thing at first. Mm-hmm. But the more you do it and choose those groups that are going to work for you, don't spread yourself too thin, because that's not good. You can't be everywhere. But choosing the few groups that you do, after you go several times, you're not really by yourself anymore because you know these people now. They have become part of your family, part of your network. So it was difficult in the beginning, and I give huge credit to John Maggio, who pulled me into networking in Annapolis and made that my family. I mean, it was very welcoming, and it got me used to going out to other events as well. And right now I'm going crazy because I miss those folks so bad. And doing that on Zoom is just not the same. We're big huggers. You can't hug through a Zoom.
Yeah, I always say to people, hug yourself and then feel like I'm hugging you, right? So, I mean, when I say that, then it at least gives it a little bit of connectivity. But I totally understand. Yeah. I love these nuggets. This is really great information. So, when you go into, and you're somebody I know that loves, that obviously has a good passion for networking. Clearly we can see it. But one thing that I love about this is there's a couple pieces here that you shared. So choose groups that work for you and don't spread yourself thin. So tell us a little bit about that, because obviously when you first started, you want to just go to everything because you're like, okay, let me just throw it all out there and see what sticks. Right. And how did you figure that out? What did you start doing? How did that work?
Well, it really zeroes in on, okay, am I going to get business out of this? I mean, that's why you're there. Right. Not only is it fun, but I need to get business out of it. And I've got to show who I'm working for and whose money I'm spending when I'm going out with these folks that it's working. And I've had to walk away from a couple groups because I knew I wasn't going to get any business out of it. And I didn't like that. I still stay in touch with them. I can't use my business time to be there if it's not going to make me business.
I gotcha. Hey, that's really smart. I mean, these are real practical conversations, but I think it's valuable to have this conversation because this is not something that we've touched on at all in a lot of the interviews. And I like this because, I think this happens to entrepreneurs, people running their own business. I mean, you work for someone else, but your income is based on what business you do. So clearly this is a very valuable conversation because not everybody that's listening to us runs or owns a business, but you're running your own business within a business, basically.
Right.
And so you've got to figure out what works in that to drive business to you. And so you're making relationships through networking, but you've also consciously said no to some of those because it's not going to work for you.
Yeah. And I always feel really bad for doing that, but you have to do it. I mean, this is a business. I'm in sales.
Yeah.
If I'm not selling, I'm not eating.
I love this. So not only choosing a group that works for you, but maybe there's, it's not even just that you're not going to get business because maybe there's someone else in that group that has already forged that relationship, but also maybe the personalities or the structure of the group doesn't fit the parameters that you have for your business.
Yes, that's the truth. And it's really hard to back off from something like that and not feel like you're insulting the group, but it has to be done. There's only so many hours in the day and night. A lot of this stuff was always nighttime networking. That's done right now, but it will come back. You have to be very conscious of where you're putting your time in order to make a living. I mean, that's what it's about.
So talk to us a little bit about, so as you're sharing that, talk to us a little bit about structuring and scheduling, because one of the things that I realize as I'm sitting here talking to you is, you've got to fit all these different things into your calendar and your schedule, and you have to figure out, and particularly in your case, in the type of business that you're in, your schedule is always moving. And so you're trying to fit in money-making activities, networking, you're trying to figure out when to fit in your closings. Tell us a little bit about some things that you found that are beneficial, things for that, to try to keep all that stuff balanced. Because I feel like people in business, whatever their situation is maybe struggling to get over some of those hurdles or try to figure out what's okay to say yes to, no to, how you move your schedule around. So give us some of your tips on how to do that.
Yeah, I'll tell you, I think one thing that's really important is not to limit yourself, because even though I could go and have coffee with somebody who's not a realtor, not a lender, not a builder, they might know somebody that wants to work with me. So you really do have to kind of open the door to basically everyone for at least a coffee one-on-one when we can do that again.
Right.
It's important not to limit, but it's also important not to waste your time. And I've been to some coffee one-on-ones that were a complete waste of my time, but that's totally about learning and something that you learn to get past and better vet the people that you are going to network with. It's also very important. I've learned this really well now with all the Zooms. You can't just pop in to a happy hour. You have to stay there for 2 hours. That's what you have to do, or nobody's going to remember who you are. Don't try to meet everybody in the room. But I mean, these Zooms have been like, wow. I mean, if you are to pull out of them before the 2 hours are over, that's bad. That's a really bad look.
I like
I
this.
was doing that.
These are some great nuggets because these are things people don't think about. Like, oh gosh, I'm not meeting anybody, or nobody will notice if I'm gone. Well, nobody will notice that you were there in the first place, is what you're saying.
Nobody will know that you were there in the first place if you pop in and pop out when you can be in person. On a Zoom, everybody is noticing whether you are there or not. You've got to stay for those 2 hours, and it can be challenging.
It's funny that you say that because one of the things I realized recently on a couple of Zooms that I was on is you not only have to be there, but you have to be involved. You can't be like, oh, checking your phone or talking to your dog or whatever. You have to be interactive and paying attention. And it's true in person. Like if you're talking to a group of people or you're listening, people are paying attention to whether you're listening or you're engaged. And so I think it's even more important now because you're on a Zoom and you're being recorded and everybody can see you. And, being interactive and engaged is very, very important.
Yeah, it absolutely is. I mean, and I know that because I was totally engaged the other day, I got a deal.
Fantastic.
From this person that I've never worked with before. So, yeah, I mean, you have to be present however you can.
So I understand as we're talking about the networking and conversations and being engaged and staying in tune. One thing that seems to be a commonality in this is building relationships with people. So even just like you said, sometimes you're being open-minded to having a conversation with somebody that isn't maybe in your sphere of who you think you need to work with. You're honing in on the fact that you're building relationships with everybody and anybody because the more people know about you, the more opportunity there is for them to want to work with you because they've gotten to know you.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So you're building relationships based on those types of things.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So
relationships are super important. I mean, you've got to have some kind of connection, a personal connection with the people that you're working with. And that's just what it is. And I'm all about that. I love it.
So when we're talking about building relationships, you're talking about getting a deal from someone you've not ever worked with before. And one of the cool things I think about this is somehow you've built a relationship that they've gotten to know you and feel enough to trust you with something that's really super important. Your job, what you bring to the table is really important. It's one of the most expensive things people ever purchase. So it's really important for people to feel that trust and want to work with you. And so how did you get to work with this person that you just most recently got a deal from that you'd never worked with before?
I've known him for a little over a year.
Okay.
And we ended up so when you do these Zooms, they break you into groups, and there was like 6 of us in a room, introducing ourselves and talking about what we did.
Mm-hmm.
And that pretty much did it. I got a text, and we put, in the chat notes our contact information.
Mm-hmm.
And he got in touch with me via email.
Love it.
And said, I've got a purchase for you.
Is really cool so we're talking about relationships, and in business, it's all about building a relationship. People don't want to work with people they don't know. Either someone's referred them, someone has suggested somebody's gotten to meet you. But one thing I love about this is exactly that. So this is a person that you've gotten to know over a year, but you'd never worked with before.
Right.
And you stayed present and accounted in any of the activities you've been involved in. But more recently, you learned how crucial it is to stay involved the whole time. You were interactive in this particular group, and boom, it paid off. So one of the things I like about this is, and I got all that right, correct?
Yes.
So one of the things I love about this is that, number one, that you're staying interactive and you're building that relationship. But number two, one of the things we talk about in business building and business struggles is people have a tendency to think, particularly with social media, that when they see successes that people are having, they say, oh my gosh, she just fell into that. Or, oh, she's just on social media all the time, so everybody wants to work with her. And it's not that at all. You took a year to basically cultivate this relationship.
Yes.
Probably weren't even totally sure you were cultivating it, or didn't even realize you were cultivating it.
No, that's the truth. I had been working in Howard County until I took the job Progressive, which is in my neighborhood, and that's where you need to work, is in your neighborhood. It's very hard to cultivate relationships a county away where you don't live.
Okay.
But I have realized that it takes about a year to really gain momentum and get these clients to work with you. I'm not the first title agent that came along. There's a whole bunch of us out there. God love them all. But you really have to work hard and cultivate these relationships. It's a big deal, a huge deal. And for anybody who is not able to put that time in, it's going to be hard to be successful.
Yeah, it doesn't just magically happen no matter what the business is, right? It's something that you have to build.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So even though you have a great idea, and even if you have some great momentum at the beginning, there's going to be a lull, there's going to be a dip, and depending on how you've built your relationships as you go along, that will keep your momentum going. It's not just automatically walk in and it's going to happen.
No, absolutely not.
I love this. So, as we're talking about that, this and building relationships, one of the things I'd like to know is, tell me a little bit about, there's, as you said, there's title agents all over Maryland. There's title agents all over the country, and everybody's vying for similar business. But just like in any other business, the hairdressers are all over, nail salons are all over, barbershops are all over, auto mechanics are all over. What sets different people apart? I mean, 100 can exist in the same county because everybody does things a little bit differently. So what's Faith's specialty? What do you bring to the table that you feel like is your superpower, your extra special? You do you really well.
Well, I'll tell you, as soon as a deal hits my desk, hits my email, I'm on it from point A to the closing table. I'm very close with my processors, excuse me, who work extremely hard to make me look good. I'm your point of contact. I'm not going to push you off to my processors. You contact me, and I deal with my processors from beginning to the end. And deals are usually around for 30 to 60 days, and you're going to talk to me a lot and asking where we are in the process and all of that. I like to stay on top of my deals.
Nice. Well, and one thing that's really special to know about Faith in this situation is, having been in that industry myself for a long time, one of the biggest complaints that people have is people aren't in touch. And so if you're staying on top of that file and you're the one they know, you're the one they trust, they expect you to be touching that file. That's phenomenal. And that's really important. Obviously, that's why you are very successful. How long have you been in outside of your business ownership working in an agency?
6 years now.
Nice.
Working for an agency. I did take a little sabbatical. I don't know if you want to call it that, but I went to work for the YWCA as a victim advocate for victims of sexual assault and domestic violence. I did that for 3 years. And it was very meaningful work. And I needed a little something else besides just title work.
I understand. So tell us, on the heels of that conversation, tell us what speaks to your heart. What are things that you like to do that don't have to do with the title world that speak to Faith's heart?
I'm a huge supporter of Burgers and Bands for suicide prevention. My daughter and I do a lot of volunteer work for them. I'm very disappointed. It was supposed to be a big event this coming weekend, but obviously that needed to be canceled. So I'm all about volunteering, and that's my big cause. And Ann Brennan is a close friend, and I'll do anything that she needs me to do for Burgers and Bands.
Awesome. Tell us a little bit about Burgers and Bands. I did interview Ann recently, and she told us about it, but a different perspective, different people listening. So tell us a little bit about what that is.
Basically, what we do is we have fundraisers with lots of wonderful bands who play for free. People buy tickets, they buy food, we raise money, and the money goes back into the school system in order to educate our teachers about suicide prevention, counseling that is needed. It's basically big awareness about what's going on, because we've had a pretty huge problem with it in this area, especially where my daughter goes to school, Severna Park High School. So it's basically making people aware and raising money in order to educate and save lives.
Fantastic. That's wonderful. Hey, tell us a little bit about what, if you meet somebody new at a networking event, you're the perfect one to ask this question to. Most people hate that I ask this, but tell everybody what, oh, somehow we got knocked out. Hold on. That was weird. Somehow you dream, but modern technology. So one of the things we talked about earlier that, being in this quarantine, we all have to figure out how to use all these different tools. And sometimes it's a little new. So when you go into a new networking event and somebody asks you what you do for a living, how do you explain you?
Basically, I tell them I'm in sales. I'm in sales. I sell my services. I do real estate closings, and I am the one that you want to have at the table with you, because I make it fun. I explain as much as you want or as much as you don't want. Yeah, I mean, I don't see anything great about my elevator speech, and most people are just like, you do what? What?
Hey, but the fact is they're asking you more questions, which instead of going, oh, okay, I'm walking away, they're asking you more questions. So there's a key to that. Sometimes, the elevator pitch, if you will, honestly, the answer is, how do you get people to ask you more questions and get more engaged in your conversation? So
yeah,
there you go. You do, because you make it fun. You're in sales and you make it fun.
Yeah, I do. I mean, I really do. Even with the mask on right now. I mean, I'm wearing a mask to my closings and I'm still making it fun.
Your energy is so infectious. It's just wonderful. So do you guys have anything going on? Any specials, anything? Does Faith have something you're involved in right now that you want to share with us? This is a wide open place.
Yeah. At this point, all I can say is that we're still in business. We are essential. We are still doing our closings. We are traveling to closings, mask and all. I can't wait until I start networking again and I can go out and actually, I don't know if we'll ever be able to hug again, but
you're gonna just
shaking your hand. I don't know.
Yeah, virtual hug, fill that in.
Yeah, I would really like to get out there and see people again. I'm missing that a lot.
Yeah, I bet. Faith, if somebody wants to get in touch with you or ask you more questions, or they want to work with you, tell us how somebody can reach out to you after today.
Okay. You can email me at faith@progtitle.com, PROGTITLE.com. Or you can call me at 240-305-9878. That is my cell phone.
Tell us one more time, so I'm typing it in the comments. 240.
240-305-9878.
All right.
Yep.
And do you guys have a website or something? We
have progtitle.com.
Is that a place where somebody could find you if they needed to?
Yeah, my information is on there. Yeah.
Excellent. I put all that contact information in. Gosh, is there any parting, really smart thoughts that you want to share with us? Maybe if somebody was thinking about getting into your business, if somebody is thinking about running a business, or some words of wisdom to somebody who may be stuck in a situation right now in their business, in their career, they don't know how to get past. Maybe some words of wisdom from somebody who's done all different types of things and definitely has had some wonderful experiences.
Yeah, I would definitely say get out of your own way, because a lot of people hold themselves back. I did that a few times during my career. You just have to get out of your own way and let yourself grow and let yourself be who you are. That's really important. Be who you are. You can't be somebody else. Don't pretend to be somebody else. Be who you are.
Hold the noise, get in your head, just get in there and do it.
get in there and do it.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
Great advice. Great words. I really appreciate you sharing that. So Faith, thank you so much for being with us today. This has been so enlightening and so much information that we've shared, and you've been so helpful in helping people understand some of these processes that you've gone through, how you've learned how to grow through them, and how somebody can take your advice and be successful in maybe some of the steps that they're struggling with. And that ending advice was really fabulous too. I can't thank you enough for your time. I really appreciate you being with us.
Thanks, Connie. You're great. Appreciate it.
All right, guys. So we have a couple more interviews coming up. So stay tuned. If you want to make sure you don't miss anything, or you want to go back and see this interview or any of the others we have that have all been phenomenal, please subscribe to my YouTube page, Connie Fuksa. You can go to our website. All of them are on there as well, ConnieFuksa.com. And we put in the comments exactly how to get in touch with Faith if you want to reach out to her after today. And then we'll be reposting everything on YouTube, on Facebook, and on LinkedIn. And Faith will be tagging and sharing that stuff too. So you'll be able to see this interview again and get her good words of wisdom. So you didn't miss anything, or if you didn't get it all written down, you can go back and touch all of that. So again, thank you so much for being with us, everybody. And Faith, I really appreciate your time. Bye, guys.
Thanks, Connie.